Ukrainian military expert Dmytro Snehiryov believes that the Russian offensive in the Kursk region is connected to the broader international situation. Notice that Putin arrived in the Kursk region just before the negotiations on resolving the war in Ukraine intensified. This is about raising the stakes. The Russian offensive in the Kursk region and its escalation coincided with international developments, specifically the meeting between US and Ukrainian representatives. Russia urgently needed to weaken or completely eliminate Ukraine's defensive presence in the Kursk region to deprive Ukraine of bargaining chips in future negotiations. That is, the ability to trade Ukrainian-controlled areas in the Kursk region for occupied Ukrainian territories. By the way, I do not rule out that the situation in the Kursk region itself could have been the subject of a political agreement, as the rapid Russian advance there raises many questions, especially considering the so-called Truba operation, which essentially mirrors the events in Avdiivka, where the occupiers used underground communications to break into the Ukrainian Defense Forces' operational rear, leading to further negative consequences, he explained on Espresso TV. Dmytro Snehiryov pointed out that a similar situation is currently unfolding in the Kursk region. In his view, the key question for military counterintelligence is why this occurred. How can you not realize that there are underground communications that can be used after 7 months of being there? For me, this is not quite clear. In addition, there has been a sharp intensification of hostilities directly on the front line in Ukraine. More than 250 military clashes have been recorded recently. Russian forces are trying to improve their tactical position in key areas and do not abandon the goal of trying to reach the administrative borders of Donetsk region. At the same time, the military expert emphasized that the operation of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region was of great importance and successful. Despite all the criticism, let's assess the situation objectively. After Ukraine's counteroffensive in the Kursk region, Russia redeployed its most combat-ready units there from the front line: Marine brigades, airborne divisions, GRU Special Forces divisions, the General Staff's Special Forces division, and a Rosgvardia Special Forces division. The total Russian troop presence reached up to 65,000. Now pay attention. According to Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Directorate, Russian losses in the Kursk region amount to approximately 48,000. This means we have neutralized and eliminated Russia's most capable military units in Kursk. Training Special Forces operatives, Marines, and mid to high-level airborne commanders takes years. Russia has plenty of cannon fodder, but a few specialists. This is the first and most important military aspect, he explained. Secondly, in addition to the loss of 48,000 Russian troops, the Russian military command was forced to take extraordinary measures, including the formation of 2 operational and tactical groups, Belgorod and Bryansk, to secure the state border. According to the expert, the total number of troops in these groups reached up to 90,000, effectively blocking operational reserves within Russian territory. As a result, these forces did not engage in combat on Ukrainian soil. Third, the economic impact. The construction of so-called line of defense lines in the Bryansk and Belgorod regions cost the Russian budget up to $40 million. This is a significant amount even for Russia. Additionally, 120,000 displaced people, which results in costs for Russia's budget of up to 5 billion rubles. The main issue, however, is that it exposed the inability of central and local authorities to adequately respond to external challenges. This represents an informational, political, and ideological defeat for Russia. We changed the very paradigm of the so-called special military operation by moving the war directly onto the occupying country's territory. This was a serious challenge for Putin and Russia. The total area of territory controlled by the Ukrainian Defense Forces in the Kursk region is estimated at up to 250 square kilometers.
Finland on Thursday announced a new arms package for Ukraine amounting to around €200 million and pledged more defense cooperation with Kyiv. According to Associated Press, the aid package for Ukraine involves artillery ammunition, which is in great need right now, said Finland's Defense Minister Antti Häkkänen as he signed a memorandum of understanding alongside his Ukrainian counterpart Rustem Umerov. Finland's defense ministry said other contents of the aid package would not be divulged at this time. Häkkänen said that Finland remains committed to supporting Ukraine and shares Kyiv's view of the Russian threat in light of our historical experiences. The areas of closer cooperation include information exchange, research and innovation, ammunition production, and defense industry projects in Finland and Ukraine, the ministry said. The minister said that the relationship was not a one-way street. 3 years of war against Russia have made Ukraine's armed forces one of the strongest in Europe. At the same time, the country has accumulated extensive experience in defending itself against Russia. It is therefore clear that in developing our own defense, we should listen carefully to Ukraine's teachings and utilize their experiences, Häkkänen said. The latest decisions would increase the total value of Finland's material aid to Ukraine to €3.3 billion, the ministry said. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer expressed disappointment Wednesday over the Trump administration's decision to impose tariffs on global steel and aluminum imports, and said a retaliatory response was possible. According to Associated Press, during his weekly questioning in the House of Commons, Starmer said his government was taking a pragmatic approach, but "we will keep all options on the table." Starmer, leader of the center-left Labour Party, said negotiations with the Trump administration over a bilateral trade deal were ongoing. Starmer was responding to a question from the leader of the centrist Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey, who said the UK should be taking a more robust approach with the US president like the Europeans and like the Canadians. Britain is not part of the European Union, which Wednesday announced import taxes on American goods, ranging from steel and aluminum to bourbon, peanut butter and jeans in response to Trump's move. Starmer has worked to build strong ties with President Donald Trump, in hope of avoiding the tariffs levied on many other U.S. trading partners. After a meeting last month at the White House, Trump and Starmer said their governments would work on sealing a long-elusive U.K. trade deal. The tariffs are a new blow for Britain's once mighty steel industry, which has shrunk dramatically from its 1970s peak and now accounts for 0.1% of the economy. Thousands of jobs are due to be lost at the country's biggest steelworks, at Port Talbot in Wales, as owner Tata Steel tries to make the unprofitable plant leaner and greener. Trade body UK Steel said that in 2024, Britain exported 180,000 metric tons of steel to the United States, about 7% of the UK's total steel exports by volume and 9% by value. The aluminum industry says the US market accounts for 10% of UK exports. Without pushing for an immediate retaliatory response, Unite, the UK's biggest union, said the government should use UK-produced steel in public sector projects. Starmer also commented on Ukraine a day after Ukrainian officials signaled they were open to a 30-day ceasefire backed by Washington. "I welcome the progress in talks between Ukraine and the United States," Starmer told Parliament. "We must now redouble our efforts to get to lasting, secure peace," he added, saying that on Saturday he would convene international leaders to discuss how further progress can be made. Ukrainian and Polish officials say U.S. arms deliveries to Ukraine have resumed a day after the Trump administration lifted its suspension of military aid for Kyiv in its war against Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the 30-day ceasefire would allow the sides to fully prepare a step-by-step plan for ending the war, including security guarantees for Ukraine. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Wednesday that it's important not to get ahead of the question of responding to the ceasefire proposal, adding Moscow was awaiting detailed information from the US on the matter.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the progress in talks between Ukraine and the United States. We must now redouble our efforts to get a lasting, secure peace. And Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, I'll convene international leaders to discuss how we can make further progress. Can I also pay tribute to the bravery and dedication of all those responding to the ship collision off the East Yorkshire coast? Our thoughts, and I'm sure of the whole House, are with the family of the crew member who is sadly presumed dead.